Hi everyone, my name is Jorge Calderon and I'm going to be giving you my presentation on leadership. For my class on leadership, I was able to learn a lot of different topics, models, and theories, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys. And the one that I selected, which we'll be covering today, is the Hersey Blanchard situational theory. So I'm gonna start with some famous quotes. According to Warren Bennis, a leadership is difficult to describe, but you know it when you see it. So with that quote, we start realizing how for some people it is not that common to find good leadership and good leaders. So we'll cover more on that. On my second one, leadership according to James McGregor is one of the most observed and least understood phenomena on the earth. With this quote from James McGregor, definitely we can see how by saying it's one of the most observed and least understood phenomena on earth, we can also see how for some people's perspectives, leadership ain't that common. One quote that I got from the book that we were reading this semester, we covered 15 chapters of the leadership experience. It was written by Richard L. and it says leadership is complex. Some have even suggested that it's nothing more than a romantic myth, perhaps based on a false hope that someone will come along and solve our problems by sheer force or will. So again, we can see there how they're trying to define it as a romantic myth, something that could be false, something that they try and make you think that it exists but it actually doesn't. And we definitely hope that we can have good leaders in our different companies. And last but not least, I got an anonymous quote saying leadership is an everyday way of acting and thinking. On one of our classes, one of the exercises was to be able to talk about how we can be leaders in anything we do within our families, our communities. So that's important there. So what is leadership? Leadership is an influence relationship amongst leaders and followers who intend to real changes and outcomes that reflect their shared purposes. So what it involves. So a couple of things. One that was mentioned, it involves influence, it involves intention, it involves change, shared purposes between leaders and followers. It has personal responsibility and integrity. And then influence, if we want to cover what influence means, is that relationship amongst people which is not passive. Also, it's inherent in this definition is the concept that influence is multidirectional and non-coercive. So, cover leadership. Let's talk a little bit about the leader, right? A leader shares power rather than hoard it. A leader finds ways to increase organization brain power by getting everybody involved and committed. A leader is a facilitator who helps people do and be their best by removing obstacles to performance, getting people what they need, providing learning opportunities, and offering support and feedback. So something that a leader and a good leader changes from, it's one of our topics covered in the book was from controller to facilitator. We don't want our leaders to be controlling followers anymore. We sometimes were able to see that with managers. Now we're looking for leaders that rather facilitate and empower their followers. Another would be from competitor to collaborator. Leadership encompasses teamwork, compromise, and cooperation. So now we're not seeing that leader that's always trying to be better than everybody else and is always on a competition trying to be the best. We can see how with this they're trying to collaborate, from diversity avoider to diversity promoter. So right now we have learned, and throughout our classes we discuss how diversity is so important, and us by allowing to be accept diversity, we know that we'll get more talent within our employees. And from hero to humble, before there was a thinking that a leader had to be that hero, that he would be able to solve all of the company's problems. The problem with this thinking is that while you're thinking that you're the hero, then you just are thinking about the goal and not about doing the right thing. So now we're asking them to be humble and know where to get that information. So something we wanna discuss are some leadership traits. And traits are the distinguishing personal characteristics of a leader. So what do we like on a leader to have? We like to have intelligence, honesty, drive, personal integrity, and appearance. So we have 3 different traits. We have more, but some of the ones that we present are personality trait. One of the examples could be creativity or self-confidence. We also have some physical traits. You can talk about age, energy level. We can also talk about limiting traits. Like, have you ever experienced a coworker that is really quick on temper? So that's what we call a limiting trait. And there are other things. For example, we talk about abilities, which could be knowledge. People that have knowledge, a person that has a fluency with talking. We also have some social characteristic, so the popularity and sociability of a person, and work-related characteristic, desire to excel, and persistence against obstacles. So those are some examples. So we've been talking about leadership, we were talking about how they influence followers. So what are those things that we consider to be good or effective for a follower? The first one that we can talk about is effective followers. They carry assignments with energy and enthusiasm. If you have a follower that's gonna be, working good, working hard, trying to get better, that's a good follower to have. Second one could be they're committed to something outside their own self-interest. So this is really important because sometimes either with our management leadership or sometimes even with followers, you have to see the line between having to compromise what you want versus which could be commodity, being comfortable and everything, and going the extra mile. So that follower that goes out of their self-interest and try to actually pursue the company doing good, that's a good follower to have. They have the courage to stand for what they believe in. So we don't want a follower that's just gonna follow every command you say and doesn't even have their own opinion. And this is the last point as well. Good followers are not yes people or who blindly will follow a leader. They actually have an opinion, they reason. From talking about leadership and talking about followers, there was bound to happen that it will have people looking at this relationship and how the leadership influences the follower and vice versa. And now we're going to talk about Hersey and Blanchard situational theory. This theory was created in 1969 by Paul Hersey and Kenneth Blanchard. So Paul Hersey, who he was. So he's really known for conceiving situational leadership. He is known for training and development in leadership, also in management and in selling. Hersey Blanchard, he's a really renowned American author. He actually has created and published 60 books. Most of them he has worked as a co-writer, but definitely he has really good experience. One of his best works was The 1 Minute Manager, which sold 30 million copies. So now let's get straight to that relationship and the situational theory. So what's the situational theory? It focuses on the followers as the important element of the situation. So now it's not saying the important thing is the leader, it's actually the followers with this theory. And consequently, to determining effective leader behavior. So what does that mean? According to the situational theory, the appropriate leader style or behavior is going to depend on the readiness level of the follower. So the leader is going to actually verify how ready that follower is, and depending on his readiness, he will be applying a leadership style. So how many leadership styles do we have? We have 4 leadership styles or leader styles. We call them S1, which is just style 1. The first one is the telling style, which we'll go over and we'll explain. The second one or S2 is the selling style. The third one, S3, is the participating style. And the last one, S4, is the delegating style. So same as with the leader styles, we have 4 follower readiness levels. As we mentioned, depending on their level, we're gonna have a leadership style. So we have 4 readiness levels, and that's why we have 4 leadership styles. So R1 stands for readiness, readiness 1, or readiness level 1, which is a follower that has low readiness. R2, or readiness 2 level, is moderate readiness. We have R3, which is a follower that has high readiness, and we have R4, which would be a follower who has very high readiness. So now we're gonna talk about the relationship between having readiness and talking about the style of the leadership. So as we mentioned, the first one, R1, is low readiness. So what can we talk about low readiness? So with low readiness, the follower exhibits very low levels of readiness, being unable and unwilling to or insecure in their ability to learn or work a task. So this can be seen in an example where, for example, the book mentions where in McDonald's, new employee that has never had a career before, how a manager or a supervisor will literally dictate how they're gonna dress, how they're gonna work. So that's one of the examples. And then if you're in that situation, the leader's gonna use the leader style or S1, which is telling. In this one, the leader tells the follower exactly what to do, directing them on how to do it and specifying timeliness. So that would be the first level. The second readiness level is moderate readiness. In this one, followers lack some skills, experience for the job, but those are the employees that, even though they lack skills, they are really passionate, confident, they are good in their ability and willingness to learn. So one good example that also the book gives is how in Facebook a manager receives graduates from college who do not necessarily have the knowledge, but they're really passionate about learning. And she uses a style in which she's gonna start applying knowledge by explaining everything from beginning to end on how to do it. So that's why in this case we mention as an example using logic and data to explain decisions why something needs to be worked a certain way. So if you're in this case where you're with that type of readiness level where they know they don't have the skills but they're willing to learn, the leader is gonna use the leader style number 2, which is selling. And with this one, the leader gives some direction. Sorry, my bad. The leader gives some direction, but also explains decisions and clarify tasks for followers, rather than just merely instructing how tasks should be performed. So with this one, they will tell them how to do it, same as in the first level, but now they're really instructing and explaining why they're doing how they're instructing them to do it. So going to our next level, readiness level 3, which we call high readiness for the follower. In this one, followers have the necessary education, they have the skills, they have the experience, but they show insecurity. They feel like they need some encouragement from the leader. So some examples that we can show here are graduate students. Let's talk about graduate students who already have completed all of their classes and they have the knowledge and skills, but they have to do a thesis and they receive a mentor, which will be a professor who's not gonna tell them what to do or how to do it. They just participate as a mentor, encouraging them and maybe giving them some feedback, but actually not directing them. So that's a good example. So definitely with that example, we can explain leader style participating, in which the leader gives followers development and act as a resource for advice and assistance. And the last one that we have here is readiness level 4, in which the follower has very high readiness. So followers in this one exhibit very high levels of ability, experience, confidence, and willingness to accept responsibility for their own task behavior. A really good example, although the book does give examples as lawyers, college professors, and social workers typically fall into this category, we also can see it in our companies. Like for example, in our company we have a lead. So that lead is going to be the person that has all that experience and it also has the willingness. So that would be a kind of an example of somebody that could be seen as a follower even though he's a lead, because he still has a manager who would be that leader for them. So leader style 4 in this case and scenario would be delegating. When you have, for example, as we mentioned, the company lead, his manager is going to start delegating, and it's because they have the confidence that that lead can actually perform the tasks. So the leader provides a general goal and sufficient authority to do the task as followers see fit. So that's a really good example. So lastly, I want to present the situational model of leadership. It talks about everything we have discussed here. Here you will be seeing the readiness levels for the follower, and this is how the leader should act. So for example, if you have a low readiness, or you are unwilling, which is another one, you want a leader to be directed, because in these scenarios, and we'll explain them here, they need that direction. So here and here, for R3 and R4, in this case, we need follower directed. So here we can see task behavior, and here we can see relationship behavior, and we'll explain how R1 goes with S1, R2 goes with S2, R3 with S3, and R4 with S4. So talking about task behavior, how is the leader gonna be in terms of providing tasks? are they gonna be really interacting with their relationship, or are they gonna be giving the tasks? So, for example, here we can see provide specific instructions and closely supervise performance. So here, in this case, we have an employee with really low readiness. So we have our leader having to tell them exactly how to do, when to do it, everything. Here, they don't have the knowledge, but they're willing to learn. So again, we have the leader having to explain everything, but in this case, in the selling, they start to explain how to do it. In the participating one, we have the follower having more skills, more knowledge, but they are not that confident. And here is where you have a leader who's participating. He's not instructing now how to do it, which that's why here they are. But here they're more talking about, hey, encouraging. And then in this one, you have a follower who's completely prepared. So that's why you don't need to have that much relationship with them. You just delegate on them. So that's how this model is presented. So really something important is that normally we see a trend on how followers start from this level, and from not having that much knowledge and not feeling comfortable and able to learn, to starting to get that confidence, starting to get that knowledge, and starting to work completely by themselves. We want our followers, and as good leaders, we want to use the different types of approaches and styles so that we can get that follower from not knowing and not being confident to not knowing but being confident to being really confident, even though hasn't been working that, to completely owning everything. And the purpose of this is explained in the next slide, in which we talk about empowerment, motivation, and engagement. We want to empower our employees. So why do we want to empower them? While empowering employees, leaders, they provide them the knowledge and the power to make decisions and the resources to do their jobs. Leaders are making the employee feel part of the situation and to feel alive, energized, and passionate about the situation. This is an employee with vitality. So, completely important. You want to empower them, you want to motivate them. Motivation does not only come from getting incentives, it also comes from the environment. If they're in an environment where they have a really good leader who's willing to teach them, get them out of that insecurity, get them out of not having that knowledge, and actually sharing that power, sharing that knowledge, getting them to actually enjoy what they're doing, you're motivating them, you're empowering them to actually get into that position where you're just gonna be able to delegate and they'll do all the work. And then if you motivate them, if you empower them, you engage them. So here we're going to explain engagement. Engagement is defined as when people enjoy their jobs. It is and are satisfied with their work conditions, contribute enthusiastically to meeting team and organizational goals, and feels a sense of belonging and commitment to the organization. Who doesn't want an employee that is satisfied with their job conditions, contributes enthusiastically, meets the team and organizational goals, and feels a sense of belonging and commitment to the organization? So I cannot emphasize more the purpose of this presentation, how we have learned about leadership, practice communication. This is a key essential, and practice empowerment. Here we have some bibliography, some sites from where I got most of my information, which was from the book and our class. and then where I got some information about some quotes and information about the leaders that wrote this theory. So Ken, gonna close with saying thank you. Thank you for teaching us about leadership, Dr. Theodore Seymour. Thank you so much, and hope you